Okay, recording's going now. Okay, to bring Andrea up to speed and anyone watching this, Reg and I've been talking for a little over a week now about putting together a newsletter and focusing on the area of really kind of management in general, organizations in general, and use that then as a promotional item into Futocracy, but also start to get people in a larger audience focused on the problems that organizations have. Okay, the question then is how to coordinate and do an alignment. Right now, we have, I guess, the prototype site set up on Substack and Medium. Reg has been taking the lead on Substack, and I've been taking the lead on Medium. The content's going to be similar, but we're still struggling with how similar and how to align content over time. So for example, if we have the same content going out at the same time, technically they're going to be at different audiences. The question comes is, how do you promote it so that you don't create confusion? So for example, on the LinkedIn, the same content could be linked there going to different places. I don't know if that's much of a problem. The other issue comes is on the Medium, and I can't speak for Substack yet, but I'm still learning the Medium side. There's the newsletter and there's also the blog. I'm not sure exactly how the newsletter appears on the homepage itself. The blog, that becomes pretty standard in a list format with pinning. The newsletter has a subscription base that appears to be separate from the blog space. Monetization seems to be by individual, even though they're publishing under a common group. So for example, you could have multiple authors publishing collectively together. The monetization, though, is by individual and doesn't start until you've got 100 followers. But to the extent you've got multiple authors publishing in a collective, you're then more likely to have some, I guess, bleed over of followers. So there's going to be some benefit there. The question then is the focus or more the length. For example, on the newsletter, is it 3 or 4 short articles? I mean, very short, and then a featured article. And the feature article might be, half, 3/4, or all of a blog post that runs in parallel. And if it's not quite all, then you can link to the blog. The newsletter articles could be, ideas that are separate discussion starters in Futocracy Network that you kind of just do a summarization, of it as a I guess a jumpstart of content. Reg, your thoughts on how to coordinate content flowing back and forth and where we store work in progress.
Yeah, Substack works slightly differently, but it does do podcasts, newsletters, blogs, and a sort of web interface, but I'm not sure yet because I haven't explored that, how that works. And you can also link it to your own equivalent. So for example, it can be linked directly to Futocracy. Okay. As far as I can make out how that's done, I'm not sure yet. The support function is very good, and creating articles is very similar to the methods used on LinkedIn and Futocracy. So from a technical point of view, it's actually quite simple. It's not totally intuitive. And you can time publications for, like we can on Futocracy.
Right.
The content, if we go down the route that we've been discussing and have done so far in setting things up, then there's positives and negatives. The positive is the chance is that by marketing 2 different sources of the same newsletter is a bit like having a different news agents or newsstands in the town, and you've got a wider population chance and opportunity. So that's one of the opportunities. The challenge is to synchronize the two in terms of data publication. At the moment, I've got Substack set up as a weekly publication on a Sunday. My rationale behind that is, let's start off at as once a week, and then if the demand is such, then we can increase the number of publications rather than have to create a lot of publications in the beginning, which for me is not sustainable at the moment. The reason I chose Sunday is basically most of my customers, and I'm not sure what it's like your side of the pond, Sunday afternoon or evening is when they sort of prepare for their next week's work, particularly the middle to senior people. And it's the time that they put aside for business things. And so publishing it on a Sunday, there's more chance that they have the time to read it. During the week, there's far less chance. Saturdays, I think, are no days for most people. And so Sunday is the reason I've gone that route. And so the publishing date and time, I think we need to synchronize. And the content for the newsletter. Now, having said that, I think the newsletter can take 2 forms once we get it going. The first part would be the same sort of subject matter that's being discussed, and then maybe either a link or something at the bottom of the newsletter that links to different types of articles that are on the website that haven't been sent out as a newsletter, because you can differentiate between the two. There, I would see we could do some differentiation depending on the types of customers each one attracts. But for the actual weekly newsletter, I would see that being the same. As far as working on the material, at the moment we've got it on OneDrive with folders where we have our work in progress, and we can have a publication folder. So that's just about communication and keeping in touch with each other to align those things. So I see that as not such an issue.
Yeah.
I put out a feeler on LinkedIn today, advertising the Substack. Within an hour, I had over 280 hits on it.
Oh, wow.
And so far, last time I looked, about 10 have subscribed so far. So that's within an hour.
Okay, wow.
I haven't put it out to my networks at all. Oh, sorry, not quite true. I put it out to one. So most of the hits are either random or they're some of my followers.
Okay, but that indicates some sharing though already.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, right now, what we have on OneDrive is kind of our content. On Medium, other authors can submit directly to a pending edit folder.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone we invite in to author with us don't have to be necessarily involved on the OneDrive coordinating. They can submit content directly into the Medium pending folder for editing. Now that would require them to submit to something similar in Substack, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the pending folder.
Okay.
On Substack, you can have guest authors,
Okay,
and when they publish, then their name goes on the article
Right.
in the right way. I haven't looked yet at the sort of editing process for guest authors yet. That's
right. Yeah, I haven't either because I can't see that side until you join. In the pending is a little strange in that I'm having trouble putting my content into the pending area. I haven't quite figured out how to do that. It wants to go straight to publish.
yeah, they both mine when you're writing, you keep getting things, hey, you publish this and all this sort of stuff.
Right.
So they're very aggressive in trying to get people to publish their first one. And since I've published that, what I've done actually, I've done a coming soon type front page, which I've published as it, so it's like a newsletter.
Mhm.
And that is what's going out when people subscribe at the moment.
Right. Okay. I keep coming back to trying to keep this as simple as possible, which leads me to a rough alignment of content without trying to actually be in perfect alignment on both sides. So if people are submitting their content into both pending folders, then we can work in parallel using the same content that may be published at the same time or near the same time, to the extent that you and I repurpose existing content. Then we could coordinate that within the OneDrive of where it's published and where it's not published, and we can grab each other's articles there.
Yeah, I mean, my only concern
Okay.
is we confuse people who are receiving the newsletter if we have the same name for the newsletter and different content.
Okay, that brings up, do we do it with different naming, or do we just do the newsletter on one side and the blog on both sides?
It's an option.
Yeah.
Because if we took that option, let's say if we went down the route that Substack is the newsletter and Medium is the blog, then you can have a link on Medium to the newsletter. So it is still the newsletter for Medium, but it's published by Substack.
That's possible. So far, what I've seen of your newsletter seems to be a little bit more functional.
I mean, it actually comes up quite professional when you see what the email format's like with all the headers and everything,
Right.
the links and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
It comes up very clear, and it automatically formats for whatever type of reader they're using.
Okay. Yeah, the link to subscribe seems to be a little bit better than what Medium has too. Okay. That might be a way to go, in which case, okay, I say Medium seems to be good, but it's not always intuitive. I guess it sounds like the same way with Substack a little bit.
Yeah, and the reviews, I think, indicate that. If you go on the web and look at the reviews for the different approaches that the different companies are using, because there's more than Substack, Stack, and
Right.
Medium. Substack tends to come out a little bit in front of Medium, I think, as a newsletter.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. The way you monetize on Medium is by author, and the newsletter works against that a little bit, because I don't see a way to separate authors within the newsletter other than them.
Yeah, you get the statistics by different levels, and one of those levels is by author
Within a newsletter?
within Substack.
Oh, yes, right. Yeah. Within Medium, on the newsletter side, I have not gotten into it far enough, but it does not appear to be a way to monetize individual articles within a newsletter separate. But they make it very easy to have each author tracking automatically so that we would not have to track the allocation. It would automatically be done on the Medium side.
Yeah, I mean, Adriana, you've been listening. Any comments from your side, if you get what we're trying to do here?
I do like the idea of having one platform for the newsletter and then having the other for the blog, and then putting the link in there, because I do think having the newsletter in two places and then putting it out on LinkedIn and
Yep.
Futocracy Network and any other places it might be, it would be confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That makes it easier to manage. But it also gives you a presence in both places.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the question is, if we go down the separate route, do we do it under the same banner, or do we even have a different banner? For example, X is the blog and Minefields is the newsletter of that blog, as many publications do.
I don't know. I can see pros and cons both ways.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second. If we had Medium as Futocracy's blog and Management Minefields as the newsletter of Futocracy, it would then make sense. Because you've got the Futocracy.network as the platform for developing the subjects and content and so forth of Futocracy.
Right.
You have a blog for discussions around the subjects that are linked to Futocracy, and then the newsletter can pick up on things on that, plus other stuff, which is basically to attract managers as opposed to consultants to
Right.
what we're doing, and then push them in the direction of Medium and or Futocracy.network. So that Management Minefields is the marketing newsletter by default for Futocracy.
Okay. What would you use the same name on the Medium side? But because you still got the same purpose on attracting the same target audience and moving them toward Futocracy Network.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. In which case you still have the Management Minefields as the marketing side in two places in two different forms.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Attracting different audiences, but connect them. We can connect all three.
I'm not sure different audiences, because it's primarily going to be for the manager side on both Substack and Medium versus what we have mainly on Futocracy now on the network is consultants.
Yeah. Yeah. And so basically consultants would still be,
Yep.
I think, in the majority drawn to the network,
Right.
whereas managers would be to the blog and the newsletter.
Okay.
And we can then cross-fertilize between the network and the others,
Right.
as appropriate.
Okay. Okay.
What do you think, Adriana?
I think that makes sense. Is there going to be? Are you're actually talking about like kind of the branding of these?
Well, we've got to give them some name, and we will link them. Whether we do that in the background or up front is part of the experiment, I guess.
Mhm.
So for example, management minefields, we could have a subtitle, the newsletter of Futocracy. Yeah, and then we could have the blog, whatever that's called, I don't know, crazy management blog, the blog for Futocracy. And then we've got the Futocracy network, which is the home base where all the engineering side of things is done.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I think looking forward, then the newsletter and the blog could also be used as revenue generators for contributors.
Right.
I would keep the newsletter would always have a free newsletter. I think that's necessary. And there could be extras for those who want to do a paid subscription. They would always get what is the free newsletter plus. And so that then would mean that we wouldn't need necessarily, it doesn't say we can't, but we wouldn't necessarily need to focus on revenue generating on the network other than for training programs, things like that.
Right. And on the medium, on the blog side, will enable other authors to build up followers themselves through using the Management Minefields platform. So they don't have to manage the whole platform themselves, and they will have some bleed over from followers from other authors publishing on the same platform.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a benefit from both sides. Guest
Right.
authors can also be paid for subscription if it's appropriate, or they can do guest letters on the newsletters for free as
Right.
also part of their profile awareness.
Right.
So we get a balance between the two.
Okay. I think that lays out most of the questions that I had struggled with. Makes it a little bit simpler. Now it's just a matter of cleaning up all the paper I've got around.
Adriana, as an independent, I mean, would it attract you to what we've been discussing?
I think that I like the management minefields idea, because yeah, if as someone with not a lot of change in my background, other than like personal experience and some work I did in school, it would be helpful to have a source to go to for information or guidance. And then if it led me to other places that could provide me even more information and guidance, that would be awesome.
I mean, I don't see the minefields one as focusing on change.
Oh,
I see
okay.
it as it would have change there,
Yeah.
but not the main focus. Because if we keep it that as the main focus, only people interested in change would go there because they're not used to being interested in change. And the idea that I have at the moment and discussed with Ross is try and get people curious about innovation, creativity, looking at organizational life in general through different perspectives. And on the about page that I've written, it is all about how from childhood through to adulthood, curiosity is driven out of us by society, parents, teachers, and so forth. And yet we're in a world where we're desperate for curiosity because of the way things are changing so quickly. And so this sort of paradox is there. And so what I'd like to do, whether I can sustain it on my own and with help from others, that's the challenge, is to look at these subjects in a different way to typical management magazines. And so if we were looking at, for example, the big quit that everyone was talking about in the US, and everyone's straight into solutions about new forms of leadership and all this nonsense, then I'm sort of looking at writing something as the first newsletter that challenges this and says, well, what's that got to do with the big shift? Do we really understand it, and so on? So that people start to think differently about it.
Okay.
Yeah. And by doing that, we can then seed them into, well, what stops you trying to do it differently? And then we're into change.
Okay. Well, personally, that would definitely attract me because, yeah, things need to be done differently, and I want to know how, and it would be helpful to have points of view from other people that that go into a different thought process than the one, like you said, that is commonly out there right now, and everybody just jumps into, well, we've got to create better leaders or better organizations, and it's like, well, we have to find the problems first before we start creating solutions. So,
and also look at what the problem might be outside our normal paradigm.
mm-hmm.
I mean, from memory, you've got a background in teaching, is that right?
I've worked in higher education, but not as a teacher. It's always been on the administrative side.
Okay, so then you've got an even deeper view, because teachers tend to have their own view about the world, whereas you've got the organizational view as well as the problems that they create and so forth. Would you write something for a newsletter from where you see the world? It's not looking necessarily for solutions, but it's challenging questions for people to think about.
I would. Yeah.
And that's what Ross and I, when we were talking about this, we want to encourage guest writers so that we get these different perspectives, which then creates a different audience. And so, yeah, what I'll do is, because I've shown the 1st of May for the kickoff for the Substack one, the Minefield. Over the weekend, as much as I can, I will put together a draft of the first article. And then, Ross, I suggest that we together go through it.
Okay.
With our group to say, right, will this attract people? Is this the right sort of tone and direction and so forth? So that, because the first newsletter is going to be very important. It's got to be different. It's got to be something that's important to people, and it shouldn't be about Kotter and all the other models and things, because they'll never come back again if they even stay. So if I do that then over the weekend, the first draft, and it will be a very first rough draft, and then in our little group, we can then encourage the others to join us as well, hopefully, to discuss it.
Okay. Next Thursday work for that?
Let me just check my diary. Yes, because the following week I'm away the whole week working.
Okay. And
so that's the 28th, isn't it?
Right, and it goes live then a few days after that.
Yeah, it goes live that Sunday.
Right.
I mean, where are you mentally at the moment, Ross, in terms of Medium? I know you've done quite a bit of work on setting it up so far. Where does that leave you, this discussion?
Not a problem. All I need to do is deactivate the newsletter, and I'm basically there.
Okay.
And so far, the only thing I've done in the newsletter was activate it and fill in some of the questions.
Mhm.
which wasn't much, but that's actually where I needed the different logo size. So that'd be easy to back that out.
Any ideas what we could call the Medium platform?
Okay, you didn't want to use management minefields there too?
I think that would confuse people.
Okay,
If we keep the link as Futocracy for all the 3 platforms, I think that then gives us consistency of a technical platform with professionals and so forth, and then the other 2.
let me,
Any ideas, Adriana?
Not off the top of my head. It would be something I'd have to kind of focus on a little bit more. But I'm just looking back at the notes that I took to try and to get some information, some ideas rolling around.
Yeah.
I haven't had my coffee yet, so.
I'm on my 3rd, so I'm okay. And I just shifted 1.5 tons of stone in the garden, so I'm,
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
relaxing at the moment. I've still got another 1.5 tons to go.
you relax too much, you're not gonna be able to move. Well, I can go back to some of the names that we kicked around earlier.
Mhm.
One was painless management.
Yeah.
Let's see. Leadership challenges.
Yeah, everywhere's drowned with leadership, isn't it?
Organizations at work.
I like painless management.
Okay, well, that's
It's
kind of where
it's different, isn't it?
yeah, it's different. It also focuses on what they always say is pain points, and let's talk pain points right up front. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. That works. But that was the first choice when I went through.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the sort because the way my brain works is a bit strange, but anyway. What I see then is management minefields as part of the Futocracy world and painless management as part of the Futocracy world.
Right. Yeah. In which case, we're opening it up to a general audience to attract the management side, but then also allow a back door into everything Futocracy, because that's the answer to a lot of the problems.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that we could do is when somebody joins for a free subscription on either site,
Right.
we automatically give them free subscription on the other site because we can add subscribers ourselves.
That's well, that's pretty doable. Just links.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And again, a lot of the times is if you cross link into content, that automatically gives them a subscription if the, in the other place if they don't have one already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for example, any link that goes into Futocracy.network automatically gives them a subscription there to the free content.
Yeah. So we're linking the 3 then quite easily.
Right.
And so if we sort of getting my brain around how this all works, if we have some one-pager that describes the Futocracy world of management and organizations, we're then got an umbrella organization to link in the minefields and the painless.
Right, right. Yeah, as we've been talking, I've been kind of making some notes on this, on how to structure it. I need to refine it a bit, and then I'll publish it out on the working group
Yeah.
for feedback. Okay,
So then if we publish the article either today or tomorrow, it's there ready once you've read it, to announce the management minefields, we can then see what response we get from the Futocracy membership. Get my teeth running here.
okay,
As a sort of guide for how we link things and send them out.
all right. Okay,
What's the membership of Futocracy at the moment?
the numbers,
Yeah,
oh, around 4,000 some.
right. Right.
Okay, yeah,
Because I think the hit rate on Substack is about 1% of people become subscribers. No, sorry, 1% of subscribers later become paid subscribers.
okay,
And the number of people who open their email, encouraging them to subscribe, it is around about 10% open. But that's not based on putting it into a network, it's based on cold calls.
okay,
As far as I could make out looking at how people's figures worked.
okay. Okay. All right, that works. Okay. Okay, that gives us something to focus on. Let me go ahead and kind of coordinate and put all of this together. And I'm gonna actually add it to the framework we talked earlier about on the transitions, desired results, bridge, target audience. I'm going to redo that a little bit.
Yeah.
Refocus.
I mean, what seems off the top of my head as a way forward is if Minefields goes live on the 1st of May, let's give that maybe a month or 6 weeks. So 6 publications to see what type of response we get from those 6 weeks, which then brings us to July, mid-July.
Okay.
And then, subject to how we think, we could launch Medium around about mid-July before the holiday period starts. If we do it too early, it might be too many things too quickly. Or do you want to go big bang and everything within 1 month?
I'm not sure there's much benefit in the delay other than you've got more content on the Medium side.
Yeah.
But if you promote that content on LinkedIn, which a lot of Medium content is shown on LinkedIn, then there's a question on, how do you then do the promotion if you've got a whole bunch of content at one time versus putting it out there over time. Okay.
It depends what we're using LinkedIn for in this strategy, because I forgot about the LinkedIn platform. How do you see that forming part of the Futocracy organization?
I see it as a marketing portal. So for example, I've got a change management network company page out on LinkedIn
Yeah.
that was very successful in bringing people into the January conference.
Yeah.
It also appears around in the LinkedIn search results. It comes up about 600 to 700 times a week in
Yeah.
search results. So I mean, it's a good marketing portal.
So then that portal can be used to market Futocracy organization and the elements of that organization.
Right, and what I do out there is I publish content out there, and everything I publish out there has a pointer back to Futocracy Network.
Yeah.
So it basically allows an organic search that we don't otherwise have.
Yeah. So the question now then is, to what extent the content should be pushed out on the LinkedIn platform compared with Medium?
A lot of times what I've seen is the content is put on Medium and then it is promoted on LinkedIn. A lot of times you'll see a you'll see a Medium article actually appear in the activity feed on LinkedIn.
Yeah, but if you've got a platform for change management, then how does the and if articles are put on the change management platform as you currently do,
Okay.
and that's robbing Medium, isn't it?
The Change Management Network page on LinkedIn. Okay.
I lost you.
Okay. What part are you talking about on LinkedIn that's robbing Medium?
You've frozen on my side. Can you hear him?
Yeah,
No,
I
he's
can
frozen.
hear you.
He's frozen on my side too. He kind of goes in and out.
Yeah.
Okay, you're both good for me.
Yeah, you keep freezing. Didn't
Okay.
hear a word of what you said.
Okay, I'm sorry. You were saying the conflict between LinkedIn and Medium content.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see a conflict because the content exists on the Medium side with the promotion into it on the LinkedIn side for the most part, what I've seen.
Okay, so then if someone wants to discuss what you're promoting from Medium, they would be linked back to Medium.
The article would be linked. The article would be linked back to Medium.
Yeah.
The discussion could take place at both places.
Yeah, okay. Which has good and bad points.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. You basically allow them to. The reader gets to choose where they place the content or their comment. For the most part, if they read just the superficial part, they're going to comment on LinkedIn side. If they read the full article, then they'll probably comment on the Medium side.
That makes a bit more sense because the LinkedIn article would be a précis of the main article on Medium.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Which would be later the same on
right
on Minefields.
And the link on the media, I say the link to the Medium and the article that's actually placed on LinkedIn is at the top side, which is shareable.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That sounds like a plan coming together.
Okay. Yeah, let me kind of organize all the individual parts. And I'll post it out there later today for discussion.
Okay. And do you want me to post that article on
yeah, I'd say yes, but do another read of it to see if you need to make any modifications for the discussion today.
Okay, I don't think so, because basically all it says
Okay,
is that we're starting our first newsletter on the 1st of May and encouraging people to subscribe and share it, basically.
okay, okay. Back to the original questions you had also on timing on the medium side.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a benefit of waiting.
Okay.
You know, in the, yeah, I mean, to the extent that you start putting content out there now, is you start having people see it versus, I guess, waiting and then they see a whole bunch of content at one time. But again, they may be a little overwhelmed and not read much of what's out there unless, you know, some of it catches their attention immediately.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 Adriana, were you still working with Jen on some of the change competency stuff?
No, I haven't worked with her at
Okay.
all on that, actually.
Okay, because that could be folded right into this also.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. That's all I had on my agenda. Reg or Adriana, anything that you had?
Not on mine. No, no.
Not
Okay.
for me either.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and make that post, Reg, and we'll keep moving forward, and I'll kind of summarize all the different platforms, each individual focus, how they're different, and this also then how they're connected.
Okay, and I'll put together a draft first article, and then we can discuss that next Thursday for any editing or changes that we need to make.
Okay.
And so that can be sent out on the 1st of May. And also some ideas for the second one, which I'd also welcome from everybody else with their ideas, to follow in a sort of similar vein. It's just trying to look at the subjects from a different perspective to help people get away from normal management stuff, that how to solve problems and that life's not like that, is it? It's how do we look at problems is more important, I think.
Okay. Okay, excellent. Anything else then?
Not for me today. So
okay.
Thanks, Adriana, for your comments, and I look forward to one of your first newsletters. So start thinking.
All right. I'll go with my coffee.
Please do. Please do.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a great weekend. Speak to you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, you too.
Bye.
Bye.